Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Come in, come in, come in. So, guys, it's Tamika's Den. I am Tamika. Let's talk Oval, y'all. The Oval, all right? This is season 3, episode 19, Gathering Evidence, all right? And, child, Kareem done made his way back home, okay? I thought Kareem was gone, y'all. I thought Kareem was in the land of the dead, all right? I was not expecting him to still be living, but he is. I'm just curious to what they did to him. I wish they would have showed it, okay? Dale comes walking out and he's just like stops there shocked and he's like, Kareem. Kareem is just sitting in the damn chair on the couch in a trance, all right? And so, he just looks up at Dale like with, just a space face. And he was like, Dell is telling him, hey, we was worried about you. And he's like, oh, no, yeah, I'm fine. He was like, where were you? And Kareem is talking about, I went for a walk, okay? And then, Dell is like, oh, no. And then Kareem is like, what? And he was like, Sharon thought something happened to you. She's worried sick. And he like, no, 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 I'm fine. And he was like, well, she's worried, so she went to Richard's. And then he's like, oh, well, that's not good. And, of course he wants to call her and let her know that he's okay. And then Kareem was like, yeah, do that. And then he was like, actually, maybe you should call her. And Kareem is talking about, I lost my phone, okay? So, again, Zell is asking him if he's okay. And he just keeps saying, yeah, yeah, yeah. And he tells Dell to sit down. And then Kareem is like, just call her. So he's like, okay. So he calls Sharon. And he lets her know that Kareem is there, because she's like, hey, are you on your way? And he was like, Kareem is here. And so she's like, what? And he's like, yeah. She was like, let me talk to him. Like, what the heck is going on? And then he tells Kareem, she wants to talk to you. And so he get on the phone with her and she's like, um, hey, are you okay? And then he's like, yeah, I'm fine. And she's basically like, well, where were you? We've been very sick about you. And he's basically like, again, he went for a walk, and he lost his phone. And of course, she like, a walk. You know what I'm saying? Like, boy, we done been calling you for hours and hours. She's like, you got to give me more than that. And so, again, she's asking, is he okay? And he's like, yeah, I'm fine. She's like, okay, well, where are you? And he's like, like I said, I went for a walk. I'm back home now, okay? And so he tells her he gonna go ahead and talk to her later that he's going to take a shower. And he gives the phone back to Dell. And Dell is like, he went to take a shower. Now, my whole thing is, how the hell was Sharon asking Dell if he was on his way when Richard was the one that's coming to get him? And Richard is apparently still at the damn house with her. But okay. And so, nonetheless, of course, they're confused as hell as to what is going on. Here come Barry getting mad, cursing her out, telling her to get the heck out the house because she was on the phone with Kareem, talking about she being disrespectful. And I'm like, serious, Barry, with everything that you know that is going on, and you've been trying to be nosy this whole damn time to get more information out of her. You saying how dangerous this is. You saying you seen what they did to the other girl at the store and all of this. This is your reaction to her after she literally came there because of what happened with Kareem. Like, get out of here with that. And so he's going on and on talking about she's in here talking to Kareem. She's being disrespectful. That's so damn disrespectful. He's like, Ma, she's about to get out of here. They had to end up calling Richard in here. And they was like, basically, Nancy comes and she's like, no, your father said he wanted her to stay here. So that's when we found out that Richard is still there. He hasn't even left to go get Dale yet. And she starts to call him in. And at this point, Sharon is like, no, Miss Nancy, just leave it alone. And she's like, no, obviously Richard has you here for a reason. He said that he didn't want you to go anywhere. So Richard comes in and he's like, what is it? She was like, Barry trying to push Sharon out. And he was like, no, Sharon not going nowhere. And again, Barry is saying there talking about, no, man, she's being disrespectful. She was talking to him. And then Barry's like, Richard is like, what did I say? And he was like, no, Sharon is not going nowhere. And so Barry talking about let her go. This some bull crap. And he was like, say it again. Say it again. He was like, you better watch your mouth. And so he was like, I said shut up, boy. So, of course Barry talking about he gonna get out of there if she not getting out of there. And Richard told him to sit his ass down. He was like, are you challenging me? I said sit your ass down. At this point, Sharon is saying she could leave and Barry is telling her bye. He was like, I said she ain't going nowhere, and I said sit your ass down. He was like, now all this disrespect stops now, okay? Richard ain't playing. Richard about to set it on everybody, okay? He tired. He over this mess. So at this point, he tries to go at Barry because Barry was still talking, and Nancy is like, calm down, stop it, stop it, stop it. And she was like, boy, shut up. Watch your mouth now, okay? Watch your mouth, and I mean it now. So they are not playing no games, okay? And so basically, Barry is still just talking his mess and going on and on or whatever have you, even though they telling him to shut up. At this point, Richard is over it. Nancy is over it. And she was like, boy, I already told you. And so Nancy was trying to stand in between them. And, Richard is asking her, did you talk to Kareem? And he's like, yeah, I did talk to him. And no, rather she said, yeah, I did talk to him. And Richard was like, what did he say? And she was like, he said he went for a walk. And he's like, a walk? And she was like, yeah. And so, they just trying to get everything calmed down. And he was like, why the hell didn't he answer his phone then? And she was like, that's what I said. He said he lost it. And so he's like, what? And she was like, well, you're staying here. That's the end of the discussion. He was like, you're going to give me his address and I'm going to go talk to him and I'm going to pick up Dale. And so she's like, okay. And he tells her to text it to him and he's like, okay. And he was like, now you're staying here, okay? And so Barry was saying that he's leaving. He was still trying to get through his mother. And Richard is over it. He keeps trying to reach over her. He telling him, he's had it. That's enough. He not going to say it again. And he was like, trying to tell Nancy to go ahead and move her behind out the way. She talking about she not moving. And he was like, he's had it. Barry's not going to be disrespectful in his house anymore. Barry talking about, well, she's being disrespectful and y'all haven't said anything about that. Nancy in the meantime is still trying to tell him to stop. And so Richard basically, end up saying to Nancy, are you going to move out my way or not? Okay, he has had it. And Barry is saying he didn't do anything. And so, Richard is like, Nancy, move. That's it. Are you going to get out my way or not? And so at this point, Nancy see Richard mean business and she moves out the way. And, Richard go ahead and grab Barry up and pull him out the house. And he yelling over and over, Dad, I didn't do nothing. And so Richard told him, boy, get out. And then he was like, look, you go somewhere until you ready to apologize. And he was like, fine, because y'all doing all this stuff for her, but y'all ain't did shit for my baby girl. And Richard was like, boy. And Nancy was like, please, calm down. And so Richard was like, ungrateful ass. And then Nancy was telling him, it's okay, it's okay. And then Richard said to Sharon, look, Sharon, I'll be back. Just text me the address. So I said, y'all don't piss Richard off now. Richard is a calm man, but Richard said he done had it with the shits, okay? And so basically, we go ahead and have what do you call it? Max, Bobby, and Sam sitting with the vice president and his wife. At this point they are just basically trying to catch up with everything and make sure they're all on the same page. Of course they know that he has, Cal locked up and, Bobby is telling them the information that he knows as far as from Lily. Of course, Max puts him on the spot like, isn't there anything else that you want to say besides that? Of course, Bobby didn't want to say anything, but Max didn't leave him no choice. So he also had to let them know that he had an affair with Lily as well, but she does have info, and he basically wants her kept out of it, We have Sam saying that he has info as far as them keep harassing Sharon, him bringing her to the White House and all of that. Cal says that he actually has info as well as far as when he first was working at the White House before finding out all this other craziness about them, that there was a couple of times they sent him to the store, to pick up the other girls and niece, and that he can remember the first lady and her actually getting into a physical altercation. They know for a fact that at least the murder of Jean was done by the son, and and they like, oh wow, so we can't go with the cover up thing, and they're just like, you gotta be kidding me with this. They put out there finally about the fact that Cal and Donald have been having an affair as well with each other. And they're like, oh my God. And so they're basically saying, Richard also has information. And so the vice president is like, what? And he was like, well, the president is harassing his son's girlfriend. And the vice president's wife is like, how? And he was like, he had her picked up and brought to the White House. She was like, against her will. And he's like, yes, ma'am. And she was like, he offered her an apartment. He offered her money. He offered her to be his mistress. And so she's basically like, you got to be kidding me, like I said. And he's like, no, sir. Okay, I am serious as, right now. And so he like, does he have proof? And like, yeah. And so, he's in deep, saying Cal is in deep with the chief of staff. And they like, are you sure? And of course, that is when they bring up, yeah, we are sure Cal and Donald are actually having an affair. And they like, whoa, what the heck? Like, what? And Sam says, I can vouch for that. Okay, Cal basically admitted to me. And so the second lady's like, I can't believe this. Okay, better start believing it, honey, because it's true. And the vice president says, what else? And that is when they tell him, well, Sam tells him about the fact that he does know that Jason did kill Jean, because he basically admitted that to a few people. And so, when he's like, is he sure? He's like, yes, it was him, sir, because he confessed to a few people. And they was like, like I said, vice second lady says, this is, there goes our theory that he's covering. So they was like, well, I don't know about the store owner. I can't confirm that. And that is when Cal said, yes, I did bring her to several locations. They did have me picking her up before. And the first lady and her actually did come to blows. So, of course, they like, oh, my goodness, these freaking people are off the hook. The vice president says, is there any end to this? No, it's not. And so that is when, like I said, Max was like, do you want to tell him about Lily, or putting him on the spot with her? And he has to admit that him and Lily actually had, relations too. And that she overheard Kyle and Donald discussing the president killing someone. But like I said, he wants her, to be kept out of this. She needs to be protected. And so Max keeps saying, I keep trying to tell him that she can't be. And they were asking, is there anything else he wanted to tell? And he was like, nothing. But like I said, Kyle is like, Bobby. And so, he admits that they have an affair. They move on to Sam, and they're asking Sam, is there anything else he want to say? He's saying no. But then the vice president lets him know that before, the person that was helping them all disappear, because he's like, are you sure, Sam? Sam is like, yes, sir. Of course, you ain't going to want to talk about nothing personal of your personal life. And he says, before Martin disappeared, he did mention that, you and the first lady had some indiscretions. And so finally, Sam is like, look, yes, sir, we did. She was flirting with me all the time. She used to make several passes at me, sir. And I did have an entanglement with her. I'm not proud of that, and what it did to my daggone wife. It was one time, sir, and that was that. And of course, Max and Bobby is laughing, and Bobby is like, did he say entanglement? And, Max is like, that's what he said. And he was like, I'm disappointed in myself or whatever, and the things that it did to my wife. But like I said, it goes no further than that. And so the vice president is like, I see. And so she was like, the second lady tells him, well, you better get back, Sam. And he was like, yes, ma'am. And so, he's ready to go back. And Max is saying, I'm coming with you. And Sam is basically like, excuse me. And he was like, I'm coming with you. And Sam is like, no, you're not. You don't have the clearance. And he was like, well, you could give me the clearance. You know what I'm saying? You can get that, can't you? And so Sam is saying, no, I can't, and that I don't think we should be going that route, or whatever the case may be. And the vice president basically says that he agrees with Sam. And he's like, are you serious? We talked about this, And he was like, I will get him and I will bring him to you. And so Max was saying thank you. And he was like, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the vice president. But in this case, Sam, I think you might have made a mistake. I think you should have brung Max and Bobby with you, because we know now that Cal was able to get those daggone 2 weapons from daggone Grip. So I'm just hoping that they do not do anything to hurt my boy Sam, because I'm going to have a problem with that, okay? But anyway, they were saying, can they trust Sam? And Bobby says yes, he would vouch for him. And he was like, even with everything, you stand by that statement. And Bobby says, yes, I do. And then Max gonna talk about that's because he's banging the chief of staff wife. Like, that don't have nothing to do with it. Y'all know daggone well that Sam is a stand-up guy, regardless of whether he had an affair or not. And he do what he supposed to do. So I didn't appreciate you saying that, Max, but okay. And so Max basically tells him, we need to gather all the information we have, bring everything in with what we have with Cal. And so the vice president talking about, you do know I'm the vice president, right? And I'm running this. And Max is basically like, yes. But then the vice president turns around after Cal was like, I'm sorry, y'all. After Max was like, what should we do, sir? The vice president essentially turns around and ends up repeating back the same daggone thing that Max just said to him. And Max was like, okay, well, that was, a great idea. And can we go now? And, the second lady thanks them for everything that they're doing. The vice president is like, thank you, gentlemen. And they go ahead and leave. You still got Kareem sitting on the couch. There's knocking at the door. He gets nervous, like, who's that? He's telling, Dell not to open the door. He's like, that's Richard. Sharon had already set this up before you came. And he already told me he was coming. Of course, he's coming out with his bags because Richard is there to pick him up. So Richard comes in and he's like, hey, Dell. And he's like, this is Kareem. And Dell is like, yeah. So he comes over to Kareem. And of course is asking him, how he's doing, how he feeling, or whatever the case may be. And Kareem is just still saying fine. And he's like, I got nothing to say to you, man. And he was like, I just want to make sure that you're all right. And he was like, well, what did I say? I said I had nothing to say to you. I want you to, Richard is still saying, I just want to know you all right. And Kareem is like, why? You don't know me. And Richard basically was like, look, I know everything that's going on, and I know that you didn't just go for a walk. And he's basically like, I know something happened to you, and at the end of the day, you want to tell me what it is. All I want to do is help y'all. And he's like, all I want to tell you is to leave. Okay, that's what Kareem says to him. And Richard says to Kareem, I'm trying to help. And he was like, you can't help me. What could you do? He was like, you can't help nobody. He was like, how the heck are you going to help? And Richard's basically like, Kareem. And he's like, no, man, just go. And then Richard tells him, look, man, I know you scared. And he was like, scared? I ain't scared. I ain't scared of nothing except that, I'm offended that you won't leave. I'm like, Kareem, please, okay? But, of course, Richard is still trying to be nice. And he was like, please, Kareem, let me try. And he was like Kareem is saying to Dell, why won't he listen to me? He was like, I told you not to open the door in the first place. And then Dell starts apologizing to him. And he's like, Mr. Richard, you could go now, okay? And so Richard was like, wait, let me say this. He was like, I know all that's going on. And nobody is above the law, okay? Nobody. I don't care who it is. And so you still got Kareem talking about don't talk to me, man. And Richard is telling him, I'm going to help Sharon. I'm going to help you. I'm going to help Dell. And so Kareem was like, you going to help us? And Richard was like, yes. And he was like, how? How you going to help? He was like, what you going to do? Serve dinner? You going to change the channel? What are you going to do? I don't need your help. I don't need you to be here. He was basically like, now you could go. And of course he, butler. And of course he doesn't look at Richard as anything but a butler. And on the one hand, I get it. Okay, now all of a sudden it's finally sinking in. He didn't think they were serious, and he wasn't taking it serious all before that this was the president of the United States. But at the same time, if Richard is saying this, then I would think like, well, Dad, what is he saying? What does he know? Maybe there's some reasoning behind this, and maybe that he's actually more than just a butler, okay? Sometimes you got to read in between the lines. But right now, Kareem ain't in that space, okay? So he's basically just still telling them to go. And Dale is like, okay. And so, Richard tells Dale, come on, grab your bag. And he was like, okay, it's right here. I was ready. And Richard says, okay, all right, good. And he says, Kareem, you welcome to come. And he's basically telling Kareem that, there's strength in numbers. And Kareem is basically like, strength in numbers, safety in numbers. He was like, shaking his head up and down, and then he's just like, I'm good. And so then he asked him, did he have anywhere else that he could possibly go? And because Kareem was saying, I'm not gonna go with your crazy ass son, and I don't know what you mean by some safety in numbers or whatever. If you really think we could ever be safe, then you crazy. And so when he asked him, did he have somewhere else to go, he's telling him, don't worry about it. So I mean, Richard did all he could do as far as that goes. And then Kareem basically turned the TV back on, and Richard was like, okay, at the end of the day, he can't force him. So he told Dale, let's go. And they went ahead and left or whatever. And so, Dale basically just says bye and close the door. And so then we get, Donald basically getting an update from Grip on the fact that, Cal is down there. He did find him. He is in the vice president's bunker where they thought. But he has no way to get him out because, of course, the only one that has the code is Sam. And Sam, it changes. I think he said like every half hour or every 15 minutes. And so he don't have no way to get him out. So then, Donald was basically like, we'll make sure he has a gun. And Grip was letting him know that he have two guns. He asked where Sam was at. Grip let him know he was on a break. He's like, well, he's on the grounds. No. Was he in a government vehicle? No, sir. So he's like, oh, okay. So he went to a meeting with him. He was like, I think you right. It's looking that way. And so Donald talking about, oh, this is getting more interesting. And then Grip asked him what he want him to do. And like I said, that's when he said for him to give Cal a gun. And he was like, I gave him two guns, sir. So he was like, oh, yeah, good. So we wait now. It's just a matter of time before Cal gets the upper hand. And so, he was just telling him to let him know when Sam brings his behind back in there. And then Grip says, yes, sir. And he was like, and you watch that little slippery, And Grip is like, no problem. And so he's impressed with Grip and he's glad that he's on it for now. And then Donald asked where the president is. And he said he's in the Oval, sir. And Donald was like, all right, I'm going to pay him a little visit. And Grip was like, okay. And so then Donald goes to see, Hunter, whatever the case may be. And so, we have Sharon there with Nancy. And Nancy comes to check on her, see how she hanging in there. And, Nancy's kind of telling her, like, I know that this is hard. I'm so sorry that all of this is happening. She's like, baby, it's not your fault, And she's basically telling her, Sharon was like, you know about this? And she was like, well, I know bits and pieces, And she was like, I know enough to know what's going on. Pretty much similar to what she said to Priscilla before. And so Sharon is still saying, I'm sorry. And then she's like, I didn't know he was going to kidnap me and take me to the White House. And so Nancy's like, huh? She was like, then he had the Secret Service take me to the Oval House. And I'm like, Oval Office. And I'm like, what's going on? And so, Nancy talking about, wait, the president? And it's like, Sharon goes, Miss Nancy. And she was like, you just said you picked up the piece. And she was like, I thought you knew about this. And so Nancy was like, well, Richard, don't tell me nothing. And I'm like, girl. I'm like, Lord. So, Sharon talking about, oh my God, I need to stop talking. I'm like, yeah, Sharon, you do. You run your damn mouth too much. And so Sharon talking about he did what? She's like, oh my God. She was like, the president? And Sharon is like, yes. And she was like, Lord have mercy, Lord have mercy. So Sharon is like, Miss Nancy, you can't tell nobody. And she was like, no, I won't do that. She was like, but he did that? So Sharon is like, yeah. So she's like, oh my goodness. She was like, then Sharon got to go on. Then when Kareem disappeared, she just still spilling the damn tea. So Nancy was like, okay. Don't tell me no more. That's it. I don't want to hear no more. Don't tell me nothing else. Okay. I don't want to hear nothing. And so basically, she's like, wait. And she was like, so if he did that and y'all are here, then are we in danger? You know what I'm saying? And Sharon basically was like, yes, And so now you're going to have her worried. And Sharon, Miss Nancy is basically like, Lord, don't tell me no more. I'm like, Nancy, you should have mind your damn business. And Sharon, you should have kept your damn mouth shut. But nonetheless, it's too late. The cat is already out the bag. So now at this point, she's starting to ask, Nancy if she okay. And it's changing from her comforting Sharon to Sharon comforting her. So Miss Nancy gets up and, walks away from the table, whatever, like she need a minute. So we had, Donald go into Hunter. Hunter saying he gonna go to the hospital and check on Jason. He starts to tell him about no one's gonna listen to a word Jason has to say. His brain is all scrambled, and he don't know what's gonna happen with that. And so Donald starts to give him up a update that he's pretty sure Sam is working with him. And Donald was Hunter's like, what, are you serious? And then Donald's like, yes I am, sir. And so here go Hunter, that little short mother, and he was like, yes sir. He was like, I want to see him right now. So he's telling him, well, no, sir, I got a better idea. And he was like, what could be a better idea than me, firing him right now? And he was like, sir, hear me out. He was like, this is going to be good. Listen to me. We found Kyle, and he's in the vice president's bunker. And he said, well, get him out. He said, no, sir. He was like, there's a password. Only Sam has it, and it changes every 15 minutes. He's the only one that has access to it. You don't even have access. And so Hunter's like, those son of a bitches. He's like, yeah. So he was like, so what are we going to do? And so Donald's like, well, Kyle has a weapon, maybe too. So at this point, when Sam goes back into that bunker, Kyle is going to ambush him, And so he was like, you like that, don't you? And so Hunter talking about, yeah, that's fantastic. And Donald talking about, thank you, sir, I'll try. And so Hunter's like, wow, this. And so he was like, Sam turned on me. And so Donald talking about, yeah, he did. No, he ain't turned on you. He was never on your damn side with your trifling ass. But anyway, Donald basically says, yeah, he is pretty small, isn't he? And he's like, Hunter says he's devious too. And so he was like, all right, well, I'm going to go to the hospital before the shift changes. So here he go. Because Donald was like, the nurse shift? And he was like, yeah, you know it. And so Donald tells him, well, I have a motorcade right outside for you. And Hunter says, I'm on my way. So this fool was only worried about going to the damn hospital so he could see the damn nurses before the damn shift change, okay? And then he says, enjoy, and he tells him Sam is going to be ambushed. I'm like, of course Hunter couldn't just be going to see his son because he's concerned about him and these damn crazy people. And so, Richard is back home at this point. Nancy's updating him that Sharon told her what's going on. He's telling her he didn't want her to be bothered with this or worried about it. She's saying, is it bad? He's like, look, I can't talk to you about this stuff. There's a reason why I never come and tell you about, these type of things. And she was like, well, I mean, you brought all of them here, so I just want to know, are we in danger? And he does tell her, look, this is bad. It's really bad. But don't worry, me and Sam is going to be on top of this. And I'm like, Lord Richard, I hope so, because they trying to kill your boy Sam off, okay? But, of course, he's trying to, make her not be worried and tell her that everything is going to be okay and that, he's on top of it or whatever the case may be. And so he was like, that's all I'm going to tell you. You need to go ahead and relax and sit down somewhere. We are on top of it. And so he tells her to go ahead, and she was like, all right. And so then we had, Priscilla call, and she's talking to Alonzo, and, he was asking if she wanted to speak to Sam. She like, oh, the hell with him. And he's like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. He's my boss. And she was like, are you really saying this to me right now? And he was like, I mean, sorry, but she was like, Alonzo, I need to talk to you. I need you to bring over the things that we talked about. And then he was like, you mean what I was looking at? And she was like, yes, yes, yes. And so he's like, Priscilla, look, I have a very important meeting. And, Priscilla's telling him I have an appointment meeting and, I need this. And so he was telling her he could lose everything. And she was like, trust me, this is bigger than all of that. And he was like, I don't think they can help with this. And so she's like, wait, what do you mean? He was like, I'm looking closely. And Priscilla's like, what? And she was like, I can't talk. He tells her I can't talk here. She was like, exactly. So as soon as you get off, you need to come over here. And he was like, okay, okay, okay. And so Priscilla says, thank you, bye. And she hangs up, and he was like, no, he tells her he'll see him. He's like, all right. So then she was like, and Alonzo, don't tell Sam. So he was like, Priscilla, and she's like, don't tell Sam. Man, listen, I think all y'all need to be telling everybody everything right now, because Sam about to be hurt, and then Priscilla really probably gonna go crazy, okay? And even though she been mad and been wanting a divorce, that's gonna be an even bigger thing. You know, you got Rip creeping back into where the control room is, where Alonzo and all the computers and all the other guys are. You got Alan leaving out because he had told Donald that he wanted to get ready to get out of there. He was done for the day. He was asking him what time it was, and he was like almost 6. And he was like, Alan, I know it's hard on you. You still sad about losing your girl. And he was like, I'm going to be honest with you and keep it real. She never wanted you. So at least you was able to find that out before. I don't know what the heck was the point of him telling him that. But, then he goes to leave. And he's checking out. And he's just like, I'm off for a bit. And so, he's like, I'll be right there. And then Alan tells Alonzo, like, you don't have to do that, man. And he's like, yes, I do. And so he's like, okay. And he said, you be there. And, Alan tells him, yeah, I'll be there. I feel bad for poor Alan. And so he go ahead and leave. And so, you have Sam get back in, and he's asking Alonzo's everything okay. He's like, yes, sir, everything is straight. And so, Sam go ahead and comes back in. And, Alonzo is looking like he's feeling a little conflicted because, of course, Priscilla's telling him not to say nothing. Grip is on the side. He's calling to let them know that Sam came back. And I'm just like, please don't let nothing happen to Sam. And he's telling him, yes, sir, I'll stay put. And so when he gets down there where Cal is at, Cal's talking about, like he there meditating. And he says to Sam, I thought you forgot about me. And then Sam is telling him, Cal, no, I didn't. And he's like, you got dinner? And Sam is like, yeah. And so he's basically like, you gonna give it to me? And Sam is like, not until we talk, the usual that he always do when he goes in there. And Cal is like, we still on that? And he's like, yes, we are. And so, Cal talking about, well, what do you want to know, Sam? I mean, they basically just doing the same dance number that they do every time that Sam goes down there. Sam is telling him he wants to know everything. Come on, spill the tea. He's like, Cal is telling him, I've told you everything that I could tell you. Sam is like, yeah, okay. He's like, you know what? You going down for all of this, right? And so Sam is telling him, no, you are. And Cal basically laughs at him, and he's basically like, ain't nothing gonna happen to me. I'm gonna be good, And he was like, you got any kids, Sam? And Sam says, no, he never had any kids. He's just like, nope. And he was like, oh, your little soldiers don't work, huh? They don't march. And so, Sam is like, no, ain't nothing wrong with my soldiers. They okay. And so he's like, you sure? He tells him his soldiers is fine. And so he basically was like, speaking of soldiers, you used to be one and you used to be a good one. What happened? And Kyle is basically like, I learned that, I woke up. And he was like, Sam says, I see. And Kyle was like, He was like, I realized that this country doesn't give a damn about soldiers. And so, you got to get yours, and that's what I'm doing. And so Sam is like killing people, and he was like, shoot, we was killing people all before, Sam. I've killed people, and so have you. And so Sam was like, in duty. And he was like, yeah, but you should really, really try doing it out of duty or whatever. And so, Sam is just shaking his head, and he like, yeah, okay. And so basically, Cal is like, Sam, and then he's like, yes, and he's like, rubbing his hands together or whatever. And he's like, when I get out of here, I'm going to wipe you and your wife off the face of this earth, basically back to the threats of the wife. And of course, Sam is like, you need to watch your mouth, it was really a big mistake to threaten my wife. And he was like, I'm a gay man, but just for the sake of doing it, you know, I'm going to rape your wife, basically. And I'm like, Lord. And so he's like, are you trying to get under my skin? And then Cal is like, no, you're way too short for me. But I hear that the first lady likes it, you know. And so basically they kept going back and forth with that. And, you know, Sam, of course, was still talking about you going to tell me. And he was like, well, if you ain't got nothing to say, then, you know. And so God was like, how you gonna make me? You know, because Sam was saying he had a way to make him talk. And so he was like, you gonna keep my food away from me? He was like, no, you can have it, you know. And he was like, well, honestly, I'd like to see that then, you know. And so he tells, you know, Sam tells him, I see you not ready. And he was like, all right, well, at least let me have my food. And so Sam was about to throw the bag to him. And he basically was like, come on, don't throw it. You wouldn't even throw, you know what I'm saying, it at an animal or whatever the case may be. Like, give me my food in my hand. I don't know why freaking Sam would walk close to this damn case to give Cal the damn bag. Like, you know this man ain't nothing but full of freaking tricks, Sam. You was supposed to be smarter than that, okay? But anyway, he's telling him to give him the bag and that he'll tell him everything he want to know. And so, like I said, he had told him not to throw it. And as soon as Sam stepped over to that daggone gate and passing him the bag, here he come yoking Sam up, grabbing him to the gate and putting the gun to him. And Sam is like, what the? And that's basically how the episode ended, y'all. And I'm telling y'all now, if they hurt Sam, they gonna have some mess with me, alright? Anyway, y'all, put it in the comments. How did you feel about this episode? What do y'all think is gonna happen next episode? You know, what you liked, what you didn't like, all that good stuff. Okay, like, share, comment, subscribe. Till next time. Toodaloo.